Okay, well, good morning, everybody. I'm Julie Baker, certified health coach with Take Shape for Life. My husband and I have been coaching for about a year and a half, and we are doing a book study of the habits of health and living a longer, healthier life. So today we are going through lesson number 2, the power of habits. So if you have your workbook, pull it out with me. Now, you did not have a reading assignment this week, so it was just to do the workbook. And if you didn't get a chance to do it, that's okay. We will go through it together, so you can do it now. Actually, we're doing 2 lessons. We're doing 2 and 3. So a lot of this is writing and some stuff for us to fill in. And so we're just going to hop right into it. So lesson 2 is called The Power of Habits. And this is huge. If anybody read through this, you probably realized that you had some habits maybe that you didn't know about, or that you didn't even think were habits, or you just realize kind of a lot about yourself. So the goals of this are to understand how our habits are formed, how to control old habits, and how to create new ones. And I really like the quote on the side by Horace Mann, where he says, "Habit is a cable. We weave a thread of it every day, and at last we cannot break it." So that just means that the more we do something, the more it's ingrained in us, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that healthy habits can be just as powerful and great as our bad habits that are unhealthy. So that can be a good thing. But habits are anything. I like how he talked about the definition of habits. So in the second paragraph, how habits are formed, he says habits are repeated behaviors that tend to occur subconsciously. In other words, we're not thinking about it. We just do it. It's very automatic. And then he talks about driving home, right? Which I think is funny because we can be completely multitasking and on the phone, eating, and our kids are in the back seat screaming, and we make it home. We drive wherever it is that we're going because we've done it so many times that it's just, second nature. So that's a habit because we're not thinking about, how do I get home again? Do I turn left or do I turn right? You make that trip, every day, numerous times a day. So you're not thinking about those little decisions. But I like how it's saying that we don't waste our energy sometimes on habits, because once they're formed, it's just part of who we are, and it kind of lessens our decision making for the day. Because I know I've done an activity before that's like, write down every decision that you made during the day. So it would be like, from the time you get up, well, am I going to get up when my alarm goes off? Or am I going to press snooze? Or am I going to get dressed? What am I going to wear? This shirt or that shirt? And you go through thousands of decisions during your day. And so habits make it to where we don't have to be super stressed about a lot of our decision making, because it's just kind of coming naturally. But sometimes those things are not always good habits because we just do them and they're not. So we are on page 10. And we're talking about daily choices. And we talked last week about kind of the compound effect and how the little choices that we make every day add up to the big things. And so those are our daily choices. What we choose to do every day might not seem like a big deal, whether good or bad, but they compound into either a healthy lifestyle or something that does not promote health. And then before you know it, things are worse than you ever thought that they were. So at the bottom of page 10, it says, list 5 lifestyle events that you would really love to do. So if you haven't filled this part in, we're on page 10. I know some people are joining us in our workbook. Go ahead and fill in 5 things that you would like to be able to do. Okay, so this can be anything. It could be something that you currently can't do because of your health. I know I had a client that wanted to go skydiving, and she couldn't because there was a weight limit. And so one of her main reasons why she wanted to get healthy was so she could fall into the weight range to go skydiving. So that would be something that you could write down if that was something that you wanted to do. But even it has stuff like play catch with your kids, or go, have enough energy to keep up with your kids, or it could be an activity that you want to do or a place that you want to go. Just list 5 things that, lifestyle events that you would really love to do. So we'll take a minute and just do that if you haven't done that already.
No, whatever. Whatever, nothing. Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody want to share? If you can't come up with 5, that's okay. You can always go back later when you think of something. Does anybody want to share what any of their 5 would be? You can come off mute. So to do that, you go in the corner of your screen with the little microphone and you unmute yourself if you would like to share. Or you can raise your hand. There should be a little button to raise your hand. Anybody want to share?
Hey, Julie.
Yeah, hi Julie.
Hey, so I was actually pleasantly surprised. I had done this at the beginning of my journey last year, and I got to check one thing off this year when I went back and did this this past week. So one of mine was I really wanted to go zip lining, and this past summer I was able to go zip lining, and it was amazing. So I was actually shocked that I got to check something off. So yeah, so one of the ones I do want to do is several years ago I went to Ireland and we went to the Cliffs of Moher, and I just remember literally sucking wind. I mean, because the air is so thin, but then with the extra weight, it was really hard. So I was telling my husband the other day, that's on the dream list, to be able to go back and go climb it and just feel the energy and not be like out of breath doing that. So.
That's awesome. Okay, so what kept you from doing zip lining before? Was it a weight thing?
It was both, and scared to death that there was so much weight that God, is that little thing going to hold me?
Yes.
So it really was. There's a lot of fear with it, and so yeah, that went with it.
And that's so fun that you got to do that and you got to check it off, and hopefully, if there's things on this list that you wrote down, that a year from now or several months from now, you will be able to mark them off your list. Okay, so Rebecca says, I want to run, specifically a 5K for Team Freedom. Awesome. Running is a big deal. I mean, I know a lot of people, it's not something that you just wake up in the morning and say, okay, I'm going to go run a 5K today. Like it's baby steps. You have to start somewhere. And so I think that's great to have a goal like that. Then you can make mini goals to get there. Does somebody on the phone want to share? I thought I saw somebody on there. No? Okay. One of mine is skiing. I've never been skiing, never. Isn't that crazy? So I think that that's something I could do, but I just have not had the opportunity. So I would like to attempt to do that. I know I tried to water ski several years ago and that was disastrous. So just maybe it's some, physical activity, or maybe it's just something that is very basic every day that you have a hard time with. I know sometimes, especially if you're in the overweight or obese category, even just going up the stairs can be challenging and put you out of breath. Or chasing your kids around is challenging for you. So it doesn't have to be a big, trip or some big activity. If it's something small for you, write that down too. Because we want to be able to look back from our health journeys and say, I'm able to do that now. So that's exciting. Okay, so now on the next page, page 11 of our workbook, it says, do your current behaviors support or prevent your ability to fulfill your dreams? So like Julie said, she wanted to go ziplining. So she would write that down. The lifestyle event would be ziplining, and what supports that or prevents that. So she had said that she wasn't able to do that because A, the weight, and B, because she was scared. And so I think that that is huge too, because it's not just about our weight and our physical bodies. You know, if she was really scared to do that, I think now she's gained a lot of confidence in herself and is just able to even just have more fun, you know? And so write that stuff down too. So take what you wrote down for your lifestyle events, put it over here on page 11, and your current habits that support it or prevent you from being able to do that. You can probably hear my kids in the background. They're making breakfast. Okay, so you might need to go back and fill the rest of these in. But it goes on to talk about how habits like these will start to dominate our behavior, and they're hard to break, right? It's hard to break habits. But instead of breaking those habits, what the Habits of Health study does is it replaces them with new ones. So that is reassuring that, you know, we're going to include some new healthy habits. We're not just going to try to necessarily just not do the old ones. We're going to add some new ones in. So then it goes down on the bottom of the page. So what sorts of habits do you rely on when you are upset, stressed, depressed, angry, sad, bored, tired, or overworked? So what do you do when you're having a bad day and you're stressed out and you just want to give up? So there's 5 spaces there. What habits do you have? Now, they don't always have to be food related, although a lot of times that seems, we seem to find comfort in food. But they might be, you know, I like to binge watch Netflix for 5 hours a day because I just want to lay in bed and not do anything. So that's not necessarily a healthy habit. So write those things down too, and we're going to go over those. They're comforting strategies. That's what we're talking about. Okay, Rebecca's sharing. I turn to junk food, TV, sweets, shopping. Oh, yes, that's a good one. I'm with you on that one. Yeah, and withdrawal. Yep, that's great. Thank you for sharing, because we do that, you know? Even if it's not food related, we're seeking for comfort, even though it might not necessarily even make us feel better, but we feel better for the moment. And so it's just kind of taking a look at those things and seeing if they're promoting a healthy life. And so shopping may or may not be healthy for our finances, right? So it's kind of trying to see if it's not just healthy body, it's healthy mind, healthy finances too. Okay, so on page 12, it said, if you had a choice to live in optimal health, would you take it? I'm pretty sure that all of us can say yes, of course. And that's why you are on here this morning, is because you want long-term optimal health. Cleaning is what Donna said. That's probably, that could be a good habit. But yeah, it's interesting to think about what you do when you're stressed. So, and if you can't think of what you do, just pay attention this week. You might be stressed out this week, and you might find yourself going to do something that you're like, oh wow, that's what I do. I didn't realize that I did that. And so I love that. This study just helps us be more aware of what we're doing. Okay, so on page 12, I love how it talks about changing your habits and how our habits come about. So it talks about at the bottom of the page, basically how our habits occur. So sometimes repetition can create these habits, but also, stimulus can create action. Obviously, if a tiger is running after us, that's our instinct. We're going to run away, and very fast. That is so we can protect our life. But another example that they use is watching TV. So if you sit down at night, after dinner, you're not even really hungry, right? You already ate. Kids are in bed or whatever. You just want to relax. And you sit down to watch your favorite TV show. And then you think that you're hungry, so you go get a bowl of popcorn. And so pretty soon, you're doing that every single night or a couple times a week or whatever. And then it turns into watching TV equals eating popcorn. And that may be watching TV equals eating cookies or ice cream or whatever it is that your thing is. And so you've kind of just conditioned yourself that when you sit down to watch TV, all of a sudden you crave that thing. And like I said, you might have already eaten dinner, you're not even hungry. So why are you thinking that? Because your body and your brain is connecting that, oh, I watch TV, so I'm going to eat popcorn. And so it's interesting when you break it down and kind of see why we do the things that we do. So what are some routines or habits that cause you to graze mindlessly on food when you're not hungry? So we're on page 13. I know for me, some of it is with my kids. So snacking, I'll go and fix them food or, whatever it is, or they're eating something and I just eat some. I'm not hungry. I'm not hungry. It's there, and I just put some in my mouth, even if I'm not going to eat all of it or even if it's for them. So does anybody want to come off and share about what causes you to graze mindlessly? Just when you're eating friends. Julie, hanging out with friends. Yes. And, we kind of, we're bad about that as far as food. I think it's just an American thing. We talked about that last week too, but we always celebrate with food. It's your birthday. Let's go out to eat. Let's eat cake. It's somebody gets a promotion at work, so they bring in treats. It's Friday. Let's celebrate with food. It doesn't even have to be anything like particular. It's just that's how we as Americans celebrate, is with food. And so I think that's a challenge for us to try to use some other ways to celebrate and not just food. Sorry, I'm trying to go through the chat. Some people are sharing. Fixing dinner. Yes, cleaning up leftovers. Okay, right? How many of us have, I know I do this with my kids. They don't eat all of their food, and I don't want to throw it away, so I eat it. And then, I know I realized so much from doing this. Why am I eating that food? I don't even want, what am I doing? It's just I feel guilty like throwing it away. And, sometimes that's just how we were raised or whatever. You don't waste food. You eat everything on your plate. And so you almost feel like, well, my kids haven't eaten it, so I guess I'm going to eat it because I don't want to throw it away. That definitely counts as mindless. Yes, Linda, when everybody's asleep and I'm watching TV, I want a snack. That is a huge trigger for a lot of people. And in the next lesson, we're going to go over triggers. Nighttime is tough for a lot of people. And cooking, somebody shared that cooking. I know that I have recently started, it's like that witching hour. That's what they call it, like the 4 to 5:30. When you have kids, that's like crazy hour. They're like hungry and you're like, what on earth are we going to eat? And I have to make something, but I didn't prepare anything, and they're going crazy. It's like the hardest time of the day, right? Well, I noticed for me that was time I was hungry. And so I need to eat a meal replacement or almonds or something that's going to tide me over, because I don't know if you guys have done this, but if you have to make something for dinner, it's going to take at least a half hour, maybe a little bit longer. You're like, I'm starving. I cannot wait that long. So you just go in the pantry and eat whatever, right? It's like, I just need something because I'm so hungry right now. And so recently I've noticed that in myself, and I'm like, yeah, no, this is not a good habit. So I've kind of had to schedule, like, I need to eat a meal replacement, or I need to, I get some almonds or something, because this random snacking before dinner is not a healthy habit. So somebody on the phone want to share? I just saw somebody clicking on there. Okay. So those are good. So on page 13, identifying the foundational choices that support our health and make a plan to incorporate them into every day. So like I just said, for me, I know that that's a hard time for me. So I've incorporated, I'm either going to eat a meal replacement or eat almonds during that time, and I will have them on hand so I'm not tempted to eat complete junk because I'm just so hungry. So in the box on page 13, I would list that as one of my daily choices to support my health right now. So take a few minutes. If you have anything you know that your habits are tough, what can you help to make them a little bit easier? Okay, so the second part of that, you can turn the page on page 14. We're just becoming aware of the daily choices. So like we just talked about, just knowing that it's a hard thing for you, that's the first step. And then I love number 3 and 4, which are think long-term. Most of us, we don't think maybe with the big picture, although I feel like Take Shape for Life kind of helps us think that way. We kind of think about today, and then tomorrow, our brains are kind of conditioned to, well, what's the next thing? And we really need to think about long-term, what's life going to be like Julie said, a year from now? Am I going to be able to check something off my list a year from now? Or what about 10 years from now? Where am I going to be 10 years from now? We really don't think that way. And so we need to be thinking about our long-term health decisions just as much as we think about today. And then creating a microenvironment of health. We want to remove as many negative stimuli as possible and those things that trigger for us. I know I've had a lot of clients that say, this is my hard thing. This is the food that does it for me. Or actually one of my clients had, it was, I think, a promotion or something. Somebody got promoted at work, or they brought in cake, and she was like, oh, cake is my downfall. Like, that's my one thing. And it sat in her office in the break room or whatever for like 2 days. And she's like, I have to keep walking by it. And that is the hardest thing. I was like, make somebody take it home or eat it. Like, tell them to get it out, because her walking past it numerous times a day was just killing her, And so obviously when other people are involved, it's a little bit harder. But as far as your own household, do what you got to do to promote those healthy choices. So we're going to go ahead and go to lesson 3, harnessing the habits of disease. So this is also a lot of writing. So no chapter reading for this as well. Do what? Oh, I thought I heard somebody. Okay. Learning how to break our behavioral chains. I don't know if you guys have read this part, but this is huge. This is how things happen. So on page 16, we're going to go through a habit and how to break the chain of a habit. Okay, so the example that they're using is eating an entire bag of cookies in one afternoon. Well, obviously it didn't just happen. There was a lot of steps along the way that led up to eating the entire bag of cookies. Okay, so first thing that happened was they clipped a coupon for the cookies, And then they looked through their coupon box and added cookies to the list because they found the coupon. And then they actually went to the store and bought the cookies. And then they put the cookies in their pantry. And then it was a Sunday afternoon and they were bored and they were digging in their pantry and pulled out the cookies. And then they ate 2 while they were standing at the counter. And then they took the bag in the living room and read the paper and ended up eating the entire bag of cookies. Okay, so you can see kind of the paper trail of what happened and how it happened. And we've all been there. And what's great is this behavioral chain can be broken any step of the way. So at any point they could have stopped and said, no, I'm not going to do this. But you can see how it led up to what happened. So they clipped the coupon. Well, ways to break that is don't use coupons for things that are not healthy for you. And shop from a list. Always make a shopping list. We all know what it's like to go to the grocery store when you don't have a list. And then like $150 later, you're like, what on earth did I even buy? Did I buy what I need? I came in for one thing, right? and I left without that thing and I bought a million other things. So we've all been there. But it says place cookies in their pantry. Well, even if they would have bought the cookies, you can still get them out of your house, give them to a neighbor, throw them away, do whatever you got to do. This next one I think is key. Nothing to do on a Sunday. So they were bored. And that, I know boredom for a lot of people is a trigger. You're bored, what do? Wander to the pantry and just look, right? You just like open the door and look. And you don't even know what you're looking for. You're just like seeing what's in there, right? I know all of us have done that. Okay, so plan activities for your weekend. Keep busy, find things to do, go outside, bike, walk. This says go shopping, which is funny, unless shopping is a bad trigger for you. So have a list of things to get done around the house. Went to kitchen cupboard and decided to take out the entire bag and ate the entire bag of cookies. So we can stop that at any point and just say, you know what, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to eat the entire bag of cookies. So I think that stopping that at any point along the way is going to help us just be able to say, I am still in control here and I don't have to do this, right? And it said, don't get distracted by a book or TV. Because when we are, only eat at the kitchen table. Because a lot of times people will eat, I don't know, I think somebody said in the chat window, people will eat in bed or watching TV or even reading, and then your mind is somewhere else. You're not thinking about food. So the next part is on page 17, list 10 daily choices that don't support your health, especially those that are automatic. So what are you doing daily? Maybe it's some of those things that we just went over. Maybe it's buying something that you know is not healthy. Or maybe it's you being bored a lot. Or eating on the couch, eating in bed, eating any place like that. So take a minute and write down some of those things that might not be supporting your health. Okay, now the second part of that is locating your triggers. So figure out what internal or external feelings or circumstances initiate unhealthy choices. Okay, so we talked about eating ice cream every night while we are watching, or popcorn or whatever, while we are watching our favorite TV show. So the trigger is watching TV. Watching TV is going to cause you to eat something that probably isn't good for you. They also use an example on here of eating candy at their desk. So the trigger for that is their boss yelling at them. So really, maybe they're feeling stressed and unhappy, and they just want to feel better. And so they go to candy to feel better. So there's an entire page on page 18 where you can list up to 10 habits of disease. So, and what triggers that for you. And this might take a little longer than we have time for today. Maybe you know some of these things, maybe you don't. Maybe you're going to find out along the way, maybe this next week, that maybe you don't function very well under pressure, and maybe your work is a high pressure work. When you feel stressed, you start eating, or maybe you just, whatever it is, have a bad attitude or need to just escape. Someone said withdrawal, like you just need to get out of there. And so we're going to talk a little bit too about how we can, instead of eating candy at your desk, because that was the example, what could you do if your boss yells at you? Now, you might not necessarily be able to just quit your job, you know, but maybe you could take a 5-minute break and go to the bathroom and just compose yourself, or take a little walk, change your environment up a little bit, things like that. So I'm going to give you just a minute to fill out some of these, because I want people to come off and share, if they feel comfortable, or in the chat window, what some of their habits of disease are and what triggers that for them. Specific triggers. So I know we talk about stress, but maybe it's a specific stressor. Like in this one, it's boss yelling at me. It might be when my kids talk back to me, or whatever it is. Try to be specific with the trigger. We're going to take just a minute and fill those out. Okay, does anybody want to share specifically what their triggers are? You can come off mute. Or you can write it in the chat window if you are on the phone. Okay, Rebecca says, I have not been watching TV since starting this program. A huge trigger for me. Awesome. I know. I don't watch much TV either. And the reason why, it's not so much because of a food issue. It's because I used to watch TV a lot as a kid and as a teenager. And I feel like it's not good for my healthy mind, because I know myself and I know that I can just sit in front of the TV for like 5 hours. I used to do that. And so it makes me unproductive, and it makes me not want to do things. I'm just like, I'm not motivated to do anything. So I really try to not watch a lot of TV, just because I know how it affects me. So that's great that you are changing your habits, Rebecca, and not watching TV, because sometimes, you know, you're so like, I'm so busy, I have so much to do. And then you realize, I'm watching TV for like 2 hours a night. I could actually be like doing something, you know, like getting stuff done. So I would much rather do things than watch TV. So anybody else? You want to share maybe something that triggers a habit of disease in your life?
I would have to say that basically mine's all emotions. I am a emotional eater, whether it's happy, sad, angry, upset. It's like something that just triggers, and automatically I have to have something to eat. Whether I'm hungry or not, could have just ate. It is definitely a struggle.
Yes. Emotions are huge, right? And as women, I feel like we deal with this every day, all the time. It's like probably not going to go away. We're women, so we have to learn how to manage our emotions. And that's huge. I mean, especially, if it's your time of the month or you're hormonal. I know that does it for a lot of us. Or just like, whatever, like, I don't even care. Or you're really craving chocolate or whatever it is. So emotions are huge. I know that all of us deal with that for sure. And even good emotions, even happy, right? You still want to eat. So awesome. Well, anybody else want to share? There's 10 of these listed here, so you might not have filled all of them in, and that's okay, because as we go through this workbook, you can go back and fill something in later. You might realize it a couple weeks down the road. Okay, so the next part is our stop, challenge, choose part. Yay, okay. This is one of my favorite things because Dr. Anderson is really big on this, and he actually has an ebook that I can email to you called Stop, Challenge, Choose. And it basically is this whole thing in a longer format. This is the condensed version, but he's talking about a way to help us overcome those triggers. And anybody heard of Stop, Challenge, Choose before? Has your coach ever mentioned it to you before? Okay, if they haven't, this is a great tool for you to use. And it's a very powerful technique. So when you are feeling that trigger for you, whether it's emotions or something, an activity or whatever it is, it's for you to stop and just take a deep breath and think, because like we mentioned before, so much of this is subconscious. And so us just stopping and realizing what we're doing is an important part of stopping the habit of disease. So then we suspend our action and we challenge ourselves and we say, why am I feeling like this? And what outcome do I want? So when we sit down, or when we're stressed or something happens, we stop and say, I really, really, really want to eat chocolate cake right now. Okay, but I'm gonna stop and take a minute and think about why I want to do this. Do I want to do it because I'm stressed out? This is my little love this morning. She just needed some mama love. Okay. Okay. Sorry, hold on. This is Sadie. Can you say hi? She's not a morning person. That's her trigger for unhealthy habits, is that she's not a morning person. Okay, go see Daddy, okay? He's on there. Okay. All right, sorry. Mama duty. Okay, so stop, challenge, choose. So challenge ourselves, why are we feeling this way? Are we feeling this way because we're unhappy or we're stressed? Or you know what? Maybe it's just because the chocolate cake is sitting on the table and it's been there for a while and we just want it. But then we make our choice. So what outcome do I want? Do I want to live a longer, healthier life? Do I want to lose weight? Do I want to reach my goals? Well, obviously the answer is yes. But even just taking the moment to stop and think about it will help us make the decision. Because so often we're not even thinking, we're just doing. We're irrationally, I'm upset, so I don't even care. I'm just gonna eat it. But taking the time to stop and think about what we really want, is this supporting that? And so I know that it is very challenging to still make the right decision. So even doing the stop, challenge, choose doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be easy to make the right decision, but it's going to walk us through that thought process of, is this something that we really want? And I know too, if you need to put a little sign or a little sticky that says stop, challenge, choose up somewhere in your house, do that, because that's going to make you think, oh yeah, I forgot. I need to stop and think about what I'm really doing here. And I like how it mentions too, make time your ally. This stuff isn't going to come like right away. I mean, it might take some time, and that's okay, because that's how a habit is formed, is over time and repetition, and keep doing the same thing. So if you turn the page to page 20, we're going to talk about our effect of our choices over time, and making those smaller choices every single day are going to help us either be on the healthy path or go down towards the sick path. And number 3 is avoid peer pressure and toxic environments. Hold on one second. I'm going to close my door. Okay. I know this kind of sounds funny, like peer pressure, because you're like, we feel like we're like in junior high, right? But a lot of it, some of our friends and family, or maybe it's our work or wherever, they are not necessarily promoting healthy habits. And some of those you can't just completely leave and cut yourself out of. But I think a great way to do that is to try to make the best choices that you can when you are around them, and promote health for yourself. And you might even be promoting health for them as well. Like I know the other night we went out with another couple, and we ate salad first before we ate our meal. And so it's funny because I wondered, they know that we're health coaches or whatever. And that's just what we're doing. Like we ordered salad first and then we ate food. And so it was funny because they didn't, but then later I noticed they like went back to get salad. And like, I just wondered if us eating that made them think about what they were eating. And they're not clients or anything like that, but being healthy is contagious. When you're around other people that are healthy, it really affects you. And even people that aren't thinking about getting healthy at all, sometimes they might look at you and be like, oh, well, they're eating really healthy. Like I could do that too, even if they're not overweight or wherever they are in their health journey. So I think it's interesting to just be a positive in your own health, because it does affect other people, even if they are negative, even if they are a toxic environment. You being in that place sometimes can just help them in their health journey. But keeping plugged into a healthy community is going to be a huge part of your health journey too, because we get to encourage one another and spur each other on to keep going. So number 4 is to keep a journal. This is a great activity because it says make note of what triggered your behavior. And this could be part of, of that too. You can write it in here. But even just keeping a health journal of how you're feeling and maybe how you're doing on the program, or even writing down those feelings. Everybody's going to have rough weeks, rough days, rough months. That's just how it is. But I think taking pen to paper and writing down how you feel is a big part of that too, because you're going to be able to look back, and a year from now, or when you reach your goal weight and say, wow, I had this was not super easy for me. Like this was hard for me. And I can encourage someone else, because there was times where I really wanted to quit. I really wanted to give up, but I didn't. And so I think sometimes just writing those things down is going to help. And make note of your triggered behavior. We're going to learn about ourselves. In this, we learn a lot about ourselves. And so I think that keeping a journal is huge. So number 5 is exchange a negative for a positive choice. And it talks about, it says, for example, you're tired at work in the afternoon. You probably habitually grab a cup of coffee. But maybe it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's going to keep you up all night. And so you're going to learn that you can make a positive choice. Go for a walk, drink some cold water, do something like that to help you keep yourself awake instead of grabbing coffee that might negatively affect you later. And number 6, avoid giving the bad habit your energy or focus. This one's funny. Did anybody read this? I thought this was really funny. Okay. So it says the best way to avoid acting in a certain way is to direct your focus elsewhere. And then it gives us a little activity to do. So it says, look down at the floor, now look up at the ceiling, and then try to look at the floor while you're looking at the ceiling. And I just thought that was so funny, because we're distracting ourselves from whatever that thing that is challenging us. And so, you can't really see the floor. Like it totally shifts your focus somewhere else. And it reminded me of things that we do with our kids, because, if you're in the store and they so desperately want a toy or whatever, and you're like, oh, you know what? Let's go over here and do something else. Like you immediately try to shift their focus somewhere else and distract them from the thing that they want. We do that with kids all the time. And usually it works because kids get distracted very easily. But we don't ever really use that trick on ourselves. So this is something that we can do if we're, if a trigger is there or we're really feeling a strong emotion to eat something. Try this little activity of look at the floor, look at the ceiling, and then try to look at the floor. And then before you know it, you're like, what was I even doing? Like, I don't remember. So I just think that that's funny. And number 7 is create barriers to the habits of disease. And this is funny because this is where Dr. A talks about his trigger. You can read it, but he talks about chocolate chip cookies and how much he loves chocolate chip cookies. And that was funny because that was my husband's trigger, was chocolate chip cookies. And so we really don't even make chocolate chip cookies anymore. But Dr. A in the video, I was going to try to get it hooked up for you guys, but I wasn't able to figure that out, maybe next week. But he talks about why it was his trigger. Okay, so, and this is funny. He says that when he was in high school, he was a football player. And his girlfriend at the time was a cheerleader. And so before every game, she used to make him a big batch of chocolate chip cookies. And he's like, I was a really good football player. I did really well. We won the game. Like, I always felt really good. So for him, eating those chocolate chip cookies equaled, I played football really well. Even though chocolate chip cookies have nothing to do with how he played football. If anything, I would think that it would make him not play as well if he just ate all of them. But so this is what he says, because of that, he got used to that in high school, eating big batches of cookies, that's his trigger. Like, he will eat all of them. So he tells his wife, do not make chocolate chip cookies when I'm in the house, and if you're going to do that, then I need to leave or whatever, because I will eat all of them. And so everybody has those things that they really love. But I think an important part of this is making sure that your family knows, and the people that are close to you, whoever that may be, whoever lives in your home, your loved ones, whoever it is, having them be a part of your health journey as well. And maybe they're not on the program. Maybe they're not wanting to get healthy or whatever. Maybe they are. Their triggers and their things are totally different than yours. So letting them know what those things are. My husband let me know, please don't do this because this is bad for me. And I didn't realize, I was just, because, I'll make it for the kids or I'll eat one, whatever. It's not a big deal for me. But he's like, I need you to not do this. And so now that I know, we pretty much don't even make them anymore. So if you have something specific, tell your family, tell your loved ones. They want to help you on this journey, but they don't know. And it might be bringing home takeout or bringing home pizza or bringing home, whatever it is that is not good for you. So definitely let them know. So the next part on page 21 is just taking that extra step and putting the strategy in for the habits of disease. So the example that they use here is eating ice cream every night. The trigger is watching TV. The strategy is A, don't buy the ice cream, and B, eat something else. So find something else that is healthy that you can eat in its place. I know a lot of my clients are snacky people, right? Like we just like snacks, or maybe it's sweet or salty or whatever. And I have encouraged them, if you are on program, to get the snack pack that Medifast has. It has popcorn in there. It has chips in there if you're a crunchy snacker, and they're really good. So you can have one of those a day. So there are options out there if that's your thing and you have a really hard time with it. I encourage you, on your next order, get the snack pack. That's what I tell my clients. You can have one of those a day as your snack, and make it for the time when you have a really hard time. If your hard time is at night before bed, you know that you can eat one of those. You eat it at the table. You don't watch TV. You don't do whatever. You get your crunchy or your salty or whatever. You get your thing, and then be done. So there's always an alternative that you can do. So that's what this part is what is the strategy to help you get rid of that. As far as the next example, the eating candy one, it says use the stop, challenge, choose, because you're stressed out. Why am I feeling like this? And under the choose part, it says, if I make a mistake, I'll try to do better. Because maybe you know that I should have done something differently. Or maybe you know that it wasn't something that I did maybe my boss is just stressed out, or my boss is having a rough day, or whatever. Sometimes it's knowing that it's not always your fault either. And this says, if I have a mean boss, consider a different job, which is funny. But, it just depends kind of where you're at, obviously. That might not necessarily work for everybody, but for some people that may apply. So it really just depends where you're at in your own health. So does anybody want to share? Has anybody used the Stop Challenge Choose before to help them kind of make decisions? If you don't have that book, I can email it to you. If you want to put your email in the chat box, I can send it to you. That way you can take a look and use it. But it's a very good book. It's one of Dr. A's ebooks as well. Anybody want to share? We have about 5 minutes left. I know somebody wrote in here, I'm learning the power in the pause. Yes. Okay, I see some emails. Awesome. I will send that to you guys. Okay, so did anybody this past week have anything that related to what we've talked about in the previous weeks? Maybe it was, I know we talked a little bit about reading ingredients, or maybe it was a trigger for you, or maybe it's that you're just really learning more about yourself. Anybody want to share? No? You guys quiet this morning? I'm writing down your emails. Okay, well, if nobody wants to share, that's okay. So this is the end of lesson 2 and 3. And so for next week, we're gonna read chapter 5 in Dr. A's Habits of Health, but there's also a health assessment there. So the health assessment is gonna show you where you are at in your health journey. So if you can, do that this week because it's gonna help you as we go through. Next week, we're gonna go through chapter 4 and 5. And, I know everybody's at a different place in your health journey. Some of you are on a program, some of you just started. Some of you are really close to your healthy weight, or you're transitioning. So, and I know that people are watching this recording too, so everybody's at a different place. So fill out the health assessment to where you are right now, because our health journey is always continuing. So even, once you're at your healthy weight, you're still gonna continue your health journey with continuing the healthy habits, reaching your optimal health. So I know when you fill it out, you might say, well, I used to be this and I'm this now, and that's okay. But fill it out to where you are now, because we want to take you to that next step. So, because I know a lot of the questions you'll be like, well, I was over here in this category. I've done so good. Like, can I just check it off already? And it's always a continuing thing. So fill out that health assessment this next week and read chapter 5. And then next week, we're going to go through lessons 4 and 5. I'm hoping that I can get the video, the DVD to work for you guys next week as well. So thanks for hopping on, and I hope that you guys have a great week.